funny, the problems that the kids have nowadays to start out podcasts.
Kids these days.
Where was this when I was a baby podcaster?
I started 3 weeks ago, and I can't get the StreamYard thing to work. There you go.
So hopefully
Oh,
we're.
if only we had StreamYard when we started, Craig.
I know. Oh, the times we tried to do where we did video, it was it's a fiasco. I think for a while there, only you and Julie were on, and I wasn't even broadcasting.
Huh?
I think for a little while there, I'm trying to remember.
Oh, you mean like when you were doing the live stream? Yeah, you were just this disembodied voice.
Yeah, because there wasn't no good way to record both sides, and
Right.
it's like I'm not doing a double ender video. So anyway,
Let's see. Why can't I
So
find
hopefully
our page?
the show notes page, or
No, our topic is Trek page. I search for it as me, but I can swap to our account.
are you talking about the show notes?
This is making no sense.
Type in TTOT or TTIT.
No, not the show notes. I'm on Facebook. I want to share our live stream. I type topic is Trek. Okay. And I get photos.
Photos.
How about
it should give you like a search result with like all the stuff, and it's one of the things.
Right. It's like search result. Topic is Trek podcast. And it comes up with like a collage of 6 and says photos. See all events.
Go look at my profile. You'll see it on there. I just shared it.
Facebook.
Oh, I think I think I know what page you got. Yeah, that's that weird interface that they have now.
Who are you logged in as?
Me.
Are you sure? Look at the icon in the top.
Yes, it's me.
Okay.
I do that because it switches every time I go to the Topic is Trek page. It sometimes switches to the Topic is Trek account.
Yeah.
If you're watching right now, this is called Behind the Scenes, How It All Works.
How we try to figure out what Facebook did different than last week.
How we replicate the sausage.
Replicated sausage.
Synth sausage.
Synth sausage.
Even I would eat that because no one knows what that is.
Synth sausage. You can easily dismiss the effects of sausage. There you go.
Synth-kraut. All the enjoyment on your Reuben sandwich without the nasty after effects of regular sauerkraut.
Oh, look, something new on the menu. Synth meatloaf.
Synth pizza.
Synth pizza. All right, that's just wrong.
Synth cheese.
It looks like I did it correctly because I see us on Twitter under the Topic is Trek, so that's good. All right.
Sweet. Well, here we go. All right.
We have one honest viewer out there playing in the background.
Yeah, there's one.
All right, you ready to roll?
Oh, I am showing me who liked it. That's cool.
I'm ready to roll.
Listener Diane, of course.
Hey, Diane.
I do remember about sausage. Anyway.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, that's right. You do.
5, 4, 3, 2.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 130 for Friday, January 20th, 2023. Coming up in this episode, a KG response from Nicholas. Conan scoops us. Some real page turners. All that and more right now on The Topic is Trek. Book 'em, Spocko. Now that's what I call a Star Trek novel. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it. Sooner or later, because on this show, The topic is Trek. Engage already. Well, hello, everyone out there, and welcome to another thrill-packed episode of The Topic is Trek. I'm Clinton, one of your co-hosts on the show. And of course, as always, in order to be a co-host, there must be other hosts. So first, beaming in from parts unknown with the hip new catchphrase that you will be saying tomorrow is Mr. Craig Stepp.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You know, we were much closer last episode, so I think you need to rework that.
Right.
I think we better bring in
Workshop it.
Yeah, let's bring in the other co-host, Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great, except for that whole catchphrase thing that's not quite happening.
I never jumped on that bandwagon.
Yeah, no. I'm
But a
regretting it now.
bandwagon that people can jump onto is our interview with Dr. Mohammed Noor, which we released earlier this week. Just go over to, hopefully Chuck is on the button here.
I got it.
Just go over to the topic is Trek.com and you can find that interview. We had an hour or so talking with the good doctor about all things biology and evolution and Star Trek and just kind of general geeking out.
It was great. I had a good time. I think we all did.
Yeah. A lot of shares, a lot of likes, a lot of good comments. Thank you very much for everybody who did that. And thank you for welcome to any new listeners who have just discovered us.
Yeah,
and
like
the old listeners as well.
Hey, Valencia.
Hey, and viewers. Yes. We had Craig's catchphrases on this show. It brings to mind this vision of like a bumper sticker on the back of the Enterprise that says Nixon 72.
Yeah.
Are you saying it's a little outdated? Is that what you're saying there?
It just doesn't belong.
All right, fine. I get the point. All right. I got it.
He'll have something really good for us next time, so don't you worry.
Yeah, don't you worry.
He's already working on it, I can tell.
Yeah. I'm already searching Google's now.
Speaking about worrying, though, it's time for us to ask a certain person if it's okay to proceed with our next segment, because we have to ask.
Whoops, I jumped the gun.
Maybe this is a good thing, because maybe he'll think about what he's going to respond. So, Charlie, is it okay if we go ahead with subspace chatter?
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
And that's a no, so we're therefore going anyway.
The part of this show where we defy Charlie and hope we don't get sent off to the cornfield.
Yes.
There we go.
All right, so Chuck, why don't you start us off?
I will start us off. When Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal hit it off while making The Unbelievable Weight of Massive Talent, Pascal, star of The Mandalorian, began trying to recruit Cage to make an appearance on the Disney Plus series. But it may not come to pass. In an interview, when he asked about taking a role in the Star Wars universe, Cage admitted, "I'm a Trekkie. That's where I roll. I'm not in the Star Wars family. I'm in the Star Trek family." Woo, that's harsh. Cage said he grew up watching Shatner and thought Chris Pine was terrific in the movies. Cage likes the way Trek can mix social issues and science fiction. Sure. We'll have more on this at the end of the show.
That's called foreshadowing of something we'll be doing a little bit later on.
I only have one shadow. How do you have four shadows?
Well, I need to get the lights.
I got to ask you too. So I know this is a hotly debated topic, but is Star Wars versus Star Trek really valid? It's like, is it?
Well, I think that in this case, I think it's more of a desire. Like if you were given the choice, I mean, we're not in that position, of course, but if you were given the choice and somebody said, hey, you can actually be in one of these things, you know, as your next project, which one would you rather be doing? So it sounds like Nicolas Cage comes down on he'd rather be in something to do with Star Trek. So I don't think it's a case necessarily of he doesn't like it at all. And there was an article that I was going to put, I think it might be in the list of other stories, but it was another one of those, oh, Star Wars versus Star Trek, which one is the superior franchise? And I go, oh, please, not again, not again.
Yeah.
And I feel like those articles are usually just to get clicks, that no one in real life cares anymore about that. And as a matter of fact, even this article goes through and says, well, if you like things that are more based more in actual science and they have debate current issues and things like that, then you might lean more towards Star Trek. If you like more of the action oriented things, then you might lean more towards Star Wars, but it really doesn't matter because you can like them both. And that's really the
Right.
point. It
Well,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that is kind of my point. It's like I like Star Wars for reasons, and I love Star Trek for reasons. So it doesn't matter. Yeah, the only thing is it's hard to even compare them because the only commonality they have is they're in space.
And they have the word star in them.
Yeah.
That's
Right. Yeah, that's what
pretty
I'm
much
saying.
it.
And 4 letters on the second half. A lot of
That's right.
commonality.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They're really,
mean,
they're really all
yeah.
exactly the same franchise, aren't they? No.
Yeah, that's right. No, they're not exactly, but I like them for different reasons. So yeah, I just think it's kind of funny how that's the default thing. Star Wars and Marvel versus DC. I'm like, who cares? It
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
it really doesn't. And I think we have actually evolved beyond those discussions. And like I said, usually it's some reporter
Have we?
trying to get a
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
get a clickbaity headline for it.
Yeah.
Now I clicked on it because I click on all the articles to see what they are, but
That's right.
hopefully I didn't count for a whole lot of response on that one. And this next story comes to us actually via listener Diane. Because speaking of Disney, as we just were, if you follow YouTuber Adam the Woo,
Yep.
who's also a good friend of our friend Joe, Crazy
That's
Joe,
right.
you may have noticed he recently took a trip north of Walt Disney World to visit Neutral Zone Studios in Georgia. That's the home of the TOS era Enterprise sets built for the web series Starship Farragut and Star Trek Continues. We've often talked about this set and the other recreation set in Ticonderoga, New York, but now you can watch Adam and a totally Trek friend of his tour this amazing location, and they're led around by Vic and by what's Jimmy's son's name?
Chris.
Chris doing. So they're leading the tour. We have a link to the video over in the show notes for episode 130. Book 'em, Spocko, over at thetopicistrek.com. And Craig, you've been to this. You've been to the studio, right? To this one.
I did. And actually, right at the beginning of 2020 was the last time I was there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved it. I met Vic Mignogna over there as he was doing the tour, actually a little bit of the tour, but we were able to run around when there weren't many people, were not many people had shown up already, and we were running around taking pictures. Some of them were stupid, some of them were fun. Well, they were all fun, but yeah, we had a great time there. I love the set.
Yeah, it looked like it was a very busy weekend when Adam was there, because they were going for the second tour of the day, and you could see all the cars parked there that had been there for the first one, and their group was a rather large group that was going through.
Yeah, our buddy Gary Lindros was there. Myself, my Gary, and my friend Fred. We were all three there. Yeah, had a good time.
Was Fred dressed up, or was he taking the pictures?
He was taking the pictures.
Okay.
He broke character. We're on the bridge. I'm in a uniform. Gary's in a uniform. Well, I think Gary's always in a uniform.
Yeah.
And then there's Fred in like an Atari t-shirt. I'm like, come on, man.
he's wearing he's incognito from the early 21st century.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's that one guy from that one episode in the background.
Oh, he's Guy.
He is Guy. He is Guy.
So, hey, by the way, I will say this. This is a great set to go to if you can get to it, or if it's close to go to Ticonderoga, go there, because you have to really see this in person, because it is so cool to see these things, right there in front of you, the whole set. It's
right, and you get a you get a sense of scale, obviously, about how big actually were these things, and what both of these sets do is they're going off of actual dimensions. Now, in Ticonderoga, I believe they had some actual plans they had gotten from someone. In the one in Georgia, they were able to work out pretty much exactly the same measurements. And in one of the clips that's in Adam's video, Vic is talking about the fact that, well, we know that a panel on the wall was 4x8.
Yep.
And once you know that's 4x8 and you see how many there are, you know how long that
Yeah.
section of the hall is, and that can, you know, how big the opening. So you just kind of work out from there.
That's
the
right.
Size of everything.
Yeah.
Unlike the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas, which was they distorted the bridge so they could get the tours through there.
Yeah, there's about 3 times the size of that bridge.
Yeah.
A lot of room between, you know, the captain's chair and ops, for example.
Yeah. So go check out Adam's video. I watch Adam's videos from time to time. Not they're not all Star Trek related, but this one is. But yeah, he has some good stuff on there. So go check it out.
All right. And Craig, you've got the next story.
All right. And 2023 is shaping up to be another big year for Star Trek in print. We have stories from Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, and Discovery, as well as Benjamin Sisko's autobiography. What?
Yeah.
Yes.
Notes coming out from the wormhole, you know, just like
Yeah. It's just a book.
He's spoken through the prophets.
That's right. The prophets wrote it for him. Plus, an art book about Trek visual effects artist Neville Page, one about the art of Star Trek Picard, and a third about details of the making of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. There's also a wonderful new illustrated book entitled To Boldly Go, How Nichelle Nichols and Star Trek Helped Advance Civil Rights. Who said print is dead? I say not. So there you go.
Indeed. Lots. And that's not even the entire year's worth of stuff. And that's just talking about books. It's not talking about the comics. So lots of Trek all over the place. You know, you can't swing a starship without hitting a Trek piece of print.
Data's cat. You can't swing Data's cat with.
You can't swing Spot without.
Don't get the ASPCA after us on this.
Well, it's a digital thing. It's
between IDW and everything else. Yeah, there's a ton of Star Trek. Digital cat.
Absolutely.
Cat 5.
Moving right along.
Let's do that before we get in trouble.
Last Saturday, January 14th, the event Trek Talks 2 held a live stream event to benefit the Hollywood Food Coalition. The event included numerous panels on various Trek topics and included appearances by Rod Roddenberry, Robert Picardo, Will Wheaton, Bonnie Gordon, John Billingsley, Anthony Montgomery, John Delancey, Brandon Braga, Mike and Denise Okuda, Terry Farrell, Brent Spiner, Nana Visitor, Michael McMahon, the band, the Roddenberrys, Anson Mount, Scott Bakula, the Hagman brothers, Jonathan Frakes, Armin Shimmerman, and friends of the show, Larry Nemechek, Dr. Aaron McDonald, Dr. Muhammad Noor, and many more. Woo!
That is and they were like, the panels were like 20 minutes long. So that one after another after another.
We will have a link to the day-long stream over in the show notes on episode 130. Book 'em, Spocko. Over at thetopicstrek.com. Just remember, if you watch, consider donating to the coalition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good cause out there. And during a panel at the Winter Television Critics Association convention, I know you all wanted to go to that, but if you didn't get a chance, that's okay. Paramount Plus released the poster for the third and final season of Star Trek Picard. Now, for those of you who are actually watching, I am experimenting with showing some things on the screen here. So I'm going to bring up the poster.
There you go.
For Star Trek Picard, and it features the main cast. Plus, we have in this one you'll see Jean-Luc and Brent Spiner playing a version of Lore, along with Jerry Ryan as Seven, and Michelle Hurd as Raffi, and the other members of, we have Worf and we have Troy, we have Crusher in there. The poster also features the USS Titan A being pursued by the Shrike, commanded by Valdick, who's played by Amanda Plummer, the main antagonist for season 3. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I saw this poster, the first thing that came to mind, I think because of the composition of it, was this poster, which was for the So what I'm showing now, in addition, is when Star Trek, the original series, premiered on NBC, they had a promotional piece, which I think was also a cover for one of the Trek books at one point. But it is Kirk and Spock, and then I think in the background is also Kirk again.
Yeah.
Let's
Can't
people,
have more than one Kirk.
um,
I'm
people
so
talk-
awesome. I get multiple pictures in the same cover.
but it's against a planet in this case, which is circular, just like the circle that's in the one for Picard, and the Enterprise is whooshing by, just like you have the Titan A
Mhm.
whooshing upwards in the one for Picard. So it just struck me as looking very. I don't know if it was an intentional callback or not. I'm guessing it was, because they seem to be doing a lot of intentional callbacks these days. So I
They
can't.
never
think that-
called me back.
Well, they're very particular about who they will call back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When I saw this in the thumbnail before you expanded it, even when you first expanded it, the Picard poster, I was picking up like a Wrath of Khan vibe.
I
Just
can
something
see
in the
that.
coloring and the artwork and the lighting in that kind of gave me that feel. It felt, darker or more menacing. I mean,
Hmm.
Picard's usually got a pretty serious look on his face in most posters.
He does indeed. He does indeed. What's he so serious about these days?
He's contemplating
Oh, I see.
the next step. Always. I don't know if I really catch a connection between the two, but other than the spherical planet behind him, kind
There's
of.
faces, there's a ship swishing, there's a planet.
Yeah. I don't
Circle.
know. I'm not sure if that's okay. All right. Anyway,
Drink up.
I am looking forward to seeing Picard, which is only a few weeks away now.
Listener Diane says, I think the Picard one looks like a Franklin mint plate.
You can get it with your
From the collection.
With your
Voyager
Paris?
one.
Your Boimler signed
Tom
Tom Paris.
Yeah, that's right. So, all right. So
see that.
IDW Publishing has announced. Speaking of, we're talking about just print stuff. Has announced that other Star Trek comic for March, Star Trek Defiant. All right, the Defiant finally gets its day.
Take that.
That's right.
No, it's just a bunch of people that don't want to go to work.
Grr.
Yeah, and they've already billed it as an edgier title than their usual crew. So the series finds Worf stealing the USS Defiant after he's had a falling out with Captain Benjamin Sisko during his mission aboard the USS Theseus.
Stealing it, it was his apartment.
I was going to say
He
it.
was living on board.
He had a cot in that thing for a while. I don't know. Worf then
He moved out of
handpicked-
his Defiance basement, okay?
Right. Worf then handpicks a crew for the mission, which includes B'Elanna Torres, Spock, Rolarin, and Data's able twin Lore. Oh my gosh, I got to see this now. IDW says the crew embarks on a high-stakes galactic manhunt with little regard for the Prime Directive. Now, wait a minute. Isn't Lore supposed to be disassembled at this point?
Yeah, so what's up with that, we wonder.
And when did anyone give any regard to the Prime Directive?
They just put him together, had a mission, and took him apart.
Well, remember, we see Lore in the trailer for season 3 of Picard.
Yep.
So
That's true. That's true.
Something's up here with Lore, and we're going to find out what it is.
Let's hear the lore on that.
Yes.
For too long.
Mm. Now, that pun aside,
Swept that one right away.
way aside. Yeah.
as far away as possible. In Vulcan, Alberta, Canada news, we were planning to get in touch with the folks that be, or trying again to get in touch with the folks that be in Vulcan, Alberta, Canada. We had tentatively scheduled an interview with them a couple of years ago, I think in the before times, and then things happened. And so that didn't.
That's when we thought you could get COVID over the Zoom.
Yeah. Well,
That's right.
we're going to hold off a bit longer because I think they'll be too full of themselves if we contact them after this minor celebrity, Conan O'Brien, was also making references to Vulcan, Alberta, Canada. And this story also comes to us courtesy of Crazy Joe, who we were just talking about a bit earlier.
Yep.
So Conan has a podcast called Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend.
Yes.
And there was a segment where he was speaking with someone and they happened to mention they were from Vulcan, Alberta, Canada. And it's just like, what? And so, Conan's thinking at first, okay, so like the god Vulcan. And he goes, the first thing that would not come to mind is me asking, so is it got to do with that Star Trek thing?
Yeah.
And then, ribbing ensues at that point. But this story got a lot of coverage. So I have a feeling right now that Vulcan, Alberta, Canada is getting attention. And so we should wait till that dies down. And then we can swoop in, say, okay, everyone else has forgotten about you, but we haven't forgotten about you. So we'll talk to you now.
We're going to help amplify Conan's message.
That's right. That's right.
Amplify it. That's right.
But I have two other stories in there about Vulcan, Alberta, Canada. And one of them is out of no place. Suddenly there's a worth the trek, 5 things to do in Vulcan, Alberta. Now, I was not finding articles like that before the Conan thing. So I think that what have we got to file about Vulcan? Oh, let's put this story up here as well.
Now we were finding about some guy bought a new crop thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And they authorized funds for a new snowplow. So
the sewer's backed up and on the 3rd block.
Anyway. The flagpole is being replaced in the town square.
Well, we did talk about the streetlights being replaced, but they were replaced with enterprises. So that was something to talk about.
Yeah,
they have a
I bet you Conan didn't talk about that.
No kidding.
I forget, didn't hear the entire interview. So
they have a picture of the Spock of the bust of Spock, right? And out in front is a handprint with the Vulcan salute, but it looks more like how you turn on the air generator on Total Recall.
Oh,
because you don't normally see the handprint in the metal with with the Vulcan salute.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
it's a Vulcan nerve pinch at the same time. That's what that is.
Hey, is this next story? It says they have a Blockbuster in Alberta, Canada.
No. It says Alberta, a choice location for blockbusters for more than a century. And it goes through different films that were shot in the Alberta area. I'm not sure if Vulcan is mentioned specifically because there's a lot of, well, no surprise, a lot of things are shot there, especially if you're looking to shoot something that represents the Old West. A lot of times you'll go to Canada to do that. Mm-hmm. So lots of things in there. And people can just go to the show notes for episode 130 over at thetopicIstrek.com and you can read that article. But while you're doing that, yes?
I was just scrolling through the movies they were talking about, and they haven't broken them down in years, right? So it's like early years, 1950s and 60s. It says 1970s. The Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood. I'm like, that came out in like the 90s.
Better check IMDb.
Huh?
I think you're right, though. The Unforgiven is like Morgan. Is that the one with Morgan Freeman in it?
The Unforgiven.
Oh, he's at the top 92. Of that section, though, because it says it's got his picture, and then it goes into the header, Unforgiven and the Alberta Film Renaissance of the 1990s.
Okay. Okay. Oh, maybe I just got it kind of weird.
You kind of got it out of order.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 92 was the Unforgiven.
All right. Well, you can check out that article, and we have links to 67 additional stories broken up by series, movies, and other categories. We even had to add a category for Star Trek Phase 2 this time around because there was an article in there about that. Exactly, Eric. Exactly. So just go to that same place, the show notes for episode 130, book 'em Spocko, over at thetopicIstrek.com.
Yeah, weren't they? Where I thought they were at one point, they had I guess maybe it was on paper. They had a plan to make the Enterprise look like Discovery ended up looking like.
Well, that was one of the designs. Well, in this
This is actually a
article we have
model.
about phase 2, they're showing the Enterprise redesign. It was a model
Yeah.
that they built, but they never really finished. It's interesting that although they didn't finish it, and then they went on to the larger model, which looks very similar for Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
It does, yeah.
This model did get finished and put into a Planet Hollywood. So that's where
Oh,
it existed.
okay.
So
All right.
listen to Diane and I have had conversations before about how, all the things that are in Planet Hollywood are not necessarily things that were actually used on screen. And I think that this is I know, it's shocking. But this one's kind of
No.
interesting in that it wasn't, but man, it's got a history,
Yeah.
of its
Actually,
own.
if you scroll down on that Twitter thread just a little bit, from the pictures in one of the Twitter threads, there is a picture of what I was talking about. It's more of a concept art piece.
Right. It's a much larger wedge looking thing than
Yeah.
Discovery
It-
actually is, but
Yeah, it looks kind of like, it looks similar to Discovery. Yeah, but yeah,
and has normal length nacelles on the sides of it.
true. Yeah. Anyway, it's kind of cool.
All
Hey,
right.
that's
So
cool. Hey, I love seeing the different iterations they do of all these starships, where, oh, let's do it this way, and what it ends up actually being. It's totally different. Well, and they do that with lots of different movies, not Star Trek, but all this stuff. You go, oh, there's some concept art, but this is what it actually looked like. It's like a ball or something. I don't know.
and a lot of times you go, well, that looks much more interesting than what they actually chose as the thing that we're going to have.
Yeah.
But I think that's because, because it's a sketch on paper and how practical it is to actually be using it. And if you thought about where the action took place on the ship, did that make any sense to have it be that shape? So,
yeah,
there usually are reasons, but some of those designs see things are really cool.
I tell you what's famous for that is Star Wars and the Ralph McQuarrie art.
Mm-hmm.
I love that art. But
Speaking of which, I believe that Enterprise you're talking about, that the wedge is a Ralph.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was. I love that art. And you look at what we got in Star Wars, like, well, there's hints, but it's not the same. I'd rather see what Ralph McQuarrie had in mind.
Right. I remember C-3PO was a lot slimmer because you didn't, you weren't thinking of the legit. But that's one of those cases. You aren't thinking of the logistics of, I've got to put a person inside of the suit.
Yeah.
Well, Doug Jones wasn't around at that time.
That's true.
Well, he was.
But he's a taller suit as well in that case.
He was much younger, I think. Yes, right.
All right. All that said, it's time for my favorite part of the show, and that's when I get to say goodbye, Charlie.
I want to stay.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
As soon as he's off the port bow, we let him have it.
Oh.
I'm out. Yeah.
He'll be back. Don't worry about it.
That's our way of saying, and stay out.
And now it's time to head out on our main mission with an appropriate sound effect.
What was I going to do? I had my eye on something. How about that one?
Unable to comply.
No.
Internal scanner relays have been damaged.
No,
Oh,
that
great.
wasn't it.
All right. Well, maybe next time.
Yep.
So
much for the book reviews.
Hip knew that. There we go.
That's
So
right.
what we're going to do this time around, since we're in that between time, after
We
the
don't
end of,
want to watch any more Enterprise.
well, it didn't make a lot of sense because we've only got this episode and next episode, and then Picard starts up for season 3.
And next episode, we'll read you some poetry or something as another excuse not to watch Enterprise.
Vulcan poetry, or we'll sing some, Klingon opera, something like
Vogon poetry. I'll take it.
Not the Vogon poetry. No.
that. No, don't want to cross that stream. Believe me, you'll never come back from it again. One of the things that we can talk about, though, next time around, even though we haven't talked about this, we're going to talk about this time yet, is one of the things I got for Christmas was the Star Trek Prodigy video game. And so I can do a review on that game. you can't roll around, so I have to actually figure out how to walk and so forth in this game. So
Is this on your phone or is this
no,
on your
this is
PC?
this is through Steam. It's we
Oh,
talked about
okay.
it on the show like when it first came out, but that was a couple of
Yeah.
months ago.
Right.
So you're playing as Gwyn or Dahl at the beginning, and you're trying to find the other members of the crew, and you're trying to save. I think you're trying to save the inhabitants of the planet because a star is going to go supernova. It's kind of weird because the book from one of the books is coming out from Prodigy this year is called Supernova. The finale, I believe, was called Supernova, and this game is called Supernova. So lots and lots of supernovas in.
I got an idea.
Back in 72, my elder brother drove a Chevy Supernova.
I don't think there was anything super about that Nova.
Well, he had a Holly carb on it and
It was great.
headers
Yeah.
and thrush
Yeah.
pipes. It was a beauty.
The chicks loved it.
Yeah, chick magnets, except the same pole. All right, so we are going to talk about this was kind of stemmed from something that Craig did when we were together at Dragon Con. He gave Chuck and myself Star Trek book, classic TOS Star Trek books from the 80s. And he has one for himself. So here
That's
is
right.
mine. And we are going to talk about those three books. And we're going to talk about them in chronological order of when they came out, which really doesn't have a lot of bearing on what happens in them. But
Not connected. You don't have to read one before the other.
It's not that kind of canon.
Are these babies yellowed?
yeah.
Actually,
I
this
feel
was
like
not in bad shape.
Virus here.
Oh, yours was kept in like a mayonnaise jar on Funko Wagnall's porch, I think, or something. That's looking pretty good shape
Yeah.
there.
That's not too bad. Yeah.
It's old enough to have a barcode. I mean, new enough to have a barcode.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, baby.
All right, so we
Yeah.
are going to start off with this one here, which is Craig's.
Yes, Crisis on Centaurus. So this was this is first published in 1986. The cover art is from Boris Vallejo.
Vallejo.
Thank you. Written by Brad Ferguson. And Ferguson had worked as a writer and editor and producer on CBS Radio News in New York. He is the author of a number of Star Trek novels, several short stories, and a post-Holocaust novel, The World Next Door. He served a 3-year term as an Eastern regional director of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, starting in 1999. So
read us the back cover, Craig. Give us the story overview.
Okay, so the back cover. Massive computer malfunctions are plaguing the Enterprise when Kirk suddenly receives a shocking message from Starfleet Command. Centaurus has been bombed and annihilated. Thousands are dead. Give whatever help you can. Centaurus is a beautiful, peaceful planet, home to many humans, including McCoy's daughter, Joanna. The crew risks beaming down to investigate, but Kirk is thrown into a deadly struggle between violent enemy terrorists and vengeful Centaurans. Now, Lieutenant Uhura, left alone in command, must jeopardize the crippled Enterprise to save Centaurus, Kirk, and Joanna McCoy. A science fiction book club Okay, I don't need to read that.
I didn't need to read that part.
Yeah.
ISBN number.
Yeah, ISBN. That's right. That's right. So overall, I don't know how we're going to do this, but overall, I enjoyed the book, but it was not without problems. So
Okay.
anyway, so as we talked about a minute ago, so there were some gravity and other assorted environmental control issues that were on the fritz, and a antimatter snafu nearly blew up the Enterprise itself. At that point, and it was when the Enterprise was at warp, and there were some holes showing
Was
up.
Scotty on a
places.
bender or something? He couldn't
Yeah.
tell his-
Well, you know, Scotty.
Yep.
No, it's not a bender. That's just a normal game face for him.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, so Kirk immediately says, "Let's go to Deep Space." I'm sorry, Starbase 9, not Deep Space 9. But then Starfleet says, "Wait a minute, Wait a minute. You need to go to Centaurus. There, when somebody had detonated an antimatter bomb and blew up New Athens as a spaceport, and it killed almost 1 million people. So of course the Enterprise is like, all right, fine, we got all these computer problems and stuff. We're going over
But
there.
we're the
So
only ship in the quadrant, so we got to go.
they're only ship in the quadrant, yeah. So they show up and almost immediately get nuked. So Centaurus was shooting up weapons at any ship that showed up, which Spock ends up having to try and talk logic into the computer. So anyway, readings show that Centaurus is having computer problems as well, as I just mentioned. Spock and McCoy and Chekhov take a shuttle down and dig through the wreckage and launch. They launch all of the nukes to keep other ships from having to run into nukes, which is kind of interesting. They not launch all the nukes into the sun.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
yeah.
say just off into space, like that can't go wrong.
Yeah. Excuse me for a second. So yeah, they launch them onto the sun so they can basically get rid of them. So Kirk and Sulu meet with the government officials about nailing down some prime suspects, and it's a group called the League for a Pure Humanity. So they're basically racist, you know.
Oh boy, yeah,
Yeah.
the name says it all.
Well, it's funny you mention that because they're the name is so boring they don't even mention it again in the book. Problem number one. Then they go through a bunch of backstory about Kirk and all that. And here's the funny part that I started cropping. This is where things started to fall apart a little bit for me. Kirk owns a ton of land on Centaurus. He somehow got it cheap.
Didn't know he was a land baron, but that's interesting.
I didn't know he had money to buy it.
Are his horses there or something? Or
I don't know. Well, he got it. It just said he got it on the cheap. I was like, what was he?
He has no money. How could he? What?
That's right. So anyway, Dr. McCoy obviously he was the doctor, of course, but he it talked about shepherding Kirk through some leg issues he had while trying to save the Farragut. But the real, now it's personal reveal was that Joanna McCoy, Leonard's daughter, is a nurse on the planet, and she was stationed in very close proximity about where the bomb had gone off. So every once in a while, Kirk would go, huh, gosh, I hope she's okay.
Would be a shame if something was to happen to her.
But the reason I mentioned that is that he goes, I hope she's all right. Every once in a while, he'd remember that because it took it was up until 80 pages in until we finally see her. You'd think she would be a bigger part of the story because she's actually on the cover, you know?
Oh, so that's Joanna. That would, you would kind of want that.
Yeah.
So that's Joanna, huh?
It's supposed to be her right there. So anyway, you don't really see her as much as you think she is. So she's not really a big part of the story, even though she's on the cover.
I'm wondering, I don't know when Joanna's first appearance in the books was. I know that Dee talked at one point about the fact that one of the things they had been kicking around for season 4 of the original series, you know, at the time that the series was first airing, was that Joanna would appear in season 4.
Right.
But I don't know, you know, was this her first appearance in the books? I wonder.
Well, I don't remember what season, but you might be right. However, I did go reading other information about this book, and they did mention that Joanna was supposed to show up and have some kind of relationship with Kirk, and that would have a little bit of friction between him and McCoy.
A little? McCoy knows what Kirk. A little?
Damn it! Why you went with my daughter?
Is it with you?
Yeah. What is it with you? Anyway, so that never came to pass. So I'm not gonna go there. Anyway, so let's talk about Uhura for a minute. She had the con Kirk was gone. She was the next in command after
Cool.
after everybody else left, which was great. And everything she's having to deal with the computer problems, the environmental issues, obviously the ships, crazy. They're, some nukes were coming up. All this stuff's going on. Everything that she had to deal with, I would hope that she would give her something hard to deal with and come out on top. But everything worked out. It's like everything was just okay. I took care of it. It wasn't really.
So she never even sat in the captain's chair. She just stayed at her console because it's all.
She was in command, but everything just kind of worked out. It wasn't really a problem they were under the gun to solve. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, so it was kind of a missed opportunity for her. That's what I'm just getting at. It says, everything just kind of worked out perfectly smoothly. That's the problem.
Hey,
Anyway.
they aren't all, crisis situations. Sometimes.
No.
Hey, take the con. It was an easy day.
I know. Well, I mean, but it's Uhura. You think they give her something to overcome, but no,
Lieutenant Kyle didn't show up at his post. He was 10 minutes late. That was about the extent of it.
He's mean.
That clipboard we got to sign?
That's right.
The little pen ran out of ink. What a crisis.
But at least there's no chain on it, so that's good.
Right. So Spock finds out or realizes that while they were in mid-warp, that little holes were popping up like little black holes, and that's what was causing a lot of the problems.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Ooh, that sounds like that episode of Enterprise.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, where they were trapped in the shuttle because little black holes were blowing holes in it.
Right. One of the things I did think was funny is that Scotty and Chekhov, it was kind of odd or maybe cringeworthy, maybe the way they would work out their English, when you're reading their sentences, because they were trying to spill out their accents.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yes.
Nuclear vessels.
Yeah. I was like, what did he say? Oh, let's read it again.
You have to read it out loud or it makes no sense whatsoever.
That's right. So that was weird. Okay. Now
I can't even read, Scotty.
Right. Now here's where it gets really weird. Are you ready for this?
Should I start the LDS now? Yes. Go ahead.
Product placement.
Ooh.
There was product placement in this book.
Oh,
what product might that be?
Okay. So
I put myself back in 1986 frame of mind here.
No. So we see Coca-Cola. We see the Sheraton hotels.
What the heck?
Yeah. And a Tellarite goes postal on an ATM because it ate his American Express card.
What the heck?
That's just lazy writing. That
Was
is
the editor asleep?
Wait,
I didn't see those galleys. Who get what?
Not quite done yet.
Oh my!
Kirk and Sulu stay in a Hilton hotel.
Craig, we should have saved this one for the end. You should have gone last. I can't top that.
How the heck did they? Yeah. No explanation whatsoever. That was just there. No explanation as to why.
Yeah. Well, Centaurus is supposed to be basically an Earth 2. So I think I get the idea what he was trying to go for. It just seems really misplaced.
That you'll pull actual brands to be there.
Well, here's the funny part.
It's good to know. I'm investing in Hilton properties because it's good to know in 200 years or so they're going to be on another planet.
Well,
so.
Here's a little
investment in Howard Johnson. So there we go.
Here's a little Nostradamus moment for you, though. They mentioned finding some coffee urns that were having been salvaged from a nearby Sears and Roebuck.
Darn, thought we were going to go Dunkin' on me. Anyway.
Yeah, you could shorten that up and it might spell Starbucks.
That's right. They even, there was a kind of a humorous little moment where, I mentioned that Kirk had this land. He had a cabin there and he resisted the temptation to call that his captain's log.
God damn it. What the heck is going on in that book?
I'm serious.
We,
It's all
we
in
need
there.
to swap books at the next opportunity. Craig, bring that on the cruise. You can read my book. I'm getting a
Okay.
hold of that one.
All right. Yeah.
Uh,
When you mentioned having been, they mentioned the coffee urns were salvaged from a Sears and Roebuck. I was like, wow. So Sears and Roebuck even went under there.
that's right. It can't survive anywhere, any
We salvaged
scenario.
it from a Blockbuster video.
That's right. I'll bring the book if you want to read it, Bess.
Oh yeah, I thought half the fun of this was swapping them around.
I know. I'm actually crying laughing. When I got to the product placement part, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
You
But
should have gone last.
but it was kind of fun to read. Well, obviously it was fun to read. It's like, where are they going to find next? A Denny's?
Go to the Waffle House now. Talk with
Spock, just
Spocko.
order them. Spock, just order the moons over my hammy. Come on.
Now that's a Star Trek breakfast. Anyway. Oh, goodness
So,
gracious.
Are we
Wow,
rating
that's
these things?
more
I don't
fun.
know. Are we rating these? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think you should rate. You should rate.
You're the only one who can rate your book.
I know. Between 1 and 5, what?
Howard Johnson's ATMs. I don't know.
I'll give it a 3. It was a fun read.
3 malls.
It just wasn't the exact Star Trek I was expecting, but
No, I can't imagine how you could expect that. So.
well, what's funny is I got through almost the whole book and I went, "Wait, where's that group they were talking about?" They just never came back to it. I don't know. The group that blew up New Athens.
Yep.
I was like, where'd it go? I don't know. So anyway, all right, that was
intense.
that
was longer than I thought you'd go on that book. Good job.
all right. So I'm gonna go jump in my Kia and go get a Dr. Pepper.
Okay. From the future.
We're gonna get banned from everything.
All right. So let's move on, shall we, to something much more
Oh yeah.
serious, I
Let's do that.
guess. I don't know. My book, which is Dreadnought! Exclamation point. You gotta remember, there's an exclamation point at the end of that one.
Not attached to Prodigy.
No. Although
Yeah.
it's interesting because in this book, near the beginning, now this is before Next Generation came out. Matter of fact, this book was first published in May 1986. So more than a year before Next Generation. And the main protagonist was going to be assigned to a Galaxy class starship.
Huh. Okay.
It wasn't obviously the Enterprise, because the Enterprise is in here, NCC 1701, no bloody A, B, C, or D. And then at one point, they go into the shuttle bay on the Enterprise, and there's some smaller shuttles, and one of them is named Prodigy. So,
Wow.
Weird indeed. Weird indeed. Anyway, the novel was later subtitled Fortunes of War Book 1. And it's okay that I didn't know that, because I don't think there's any connection at all between book 1 and book 2. Cover art is once again by Boris Vallejo. And a fun piece of trivia, Vallejo placed the author and her husband on the cover, painting them as the lead characters in the story. So there you go. Those two people next to Kirk are the author and her husband.
They look like they walk.
Her outfit looks like it's straight out of the Angel 1 episode.
I was actually thinking Logan's Run, but okay.
Yeah, the hairstyle says 80s right up front, on that one.
Yep.
It's written by Diane Carey. See picture to see what Diane looks like. Carey's first publication was a romance novel under the pseudonym of Linda Gregory. She has also written children's novels, but is best known for her work in the Star Trek franchise. She has been the lead-off writer for 2 Star Trek spin-off series, Star Trek The Next Generation and Enterprise.
All
So
right.
she wrote the first novels for them. But we're talking about Dreadnought. And so to follow up, I will read the back cover of this one. Let me bring that down first.
Does it have anything to do with ATMs? And
No, sadly, no. Star Empire. Now, this is very confusing. Star Empire is the name of a starship.
Romulan.
No, it's the name a Federation starship, a prototype Federation starship.
Why would they name it after the Romulan Empire?
I just read them. I don't write them. Star Empire is the Federation's most powerful new weapon, a dreadnought, no exclamation point there, first in a class of super starships capable of outgunning a dozen Klingon cruisers or subduing a galaxy. Foreshadowing there. On the eve of her maiden voyage, Star Empire is stolen by terrorists.
Of course.
Who demand a rendezvous with the Enterprise and with Lieutenant Piper, stationed aboard Kirk's ship on her first training cruise. Now Piper must discover why her friends from Starfleet are among the terrorists and why they insist the ship was stolen not to attack the Federation, but to save it. Dun, dun, dun. So a couple of things in there. So Lieutenant Piper is from, she's from Proxima Beta. It's an Earth colony that was settled on Proxima Beta several generations ago, but she's back at Starfleet Academy. And the book opens with her on the bridge of the starship and everything exploding around her because they're being attacked by, I think in this case, it's the Romulans, not the Klingons. And she seeing her crew dying all around her. And she figures out a way to try to use the ship's computer to keep pulling power to fire weapons at the enemy. And her command to pull power keeps drawing more and more power from other places. And the lights flicker on the bridge for a second. She doesn't think anything about it because she's too intent on stuff. And suddenly there's an explosion on the bridge. And then the lights come up because guess what this was?
A simulation.
And what simulation might that be?
A Kobayashi Maru.
Exactly. And she
It's
had
the DoorDash simulation.
Yes. So she had been pulling power not only from the computers in the simulation, but the computer was pulling power from apparently all over Starfleet Academy, causing blackouts. So she became the person closest to winning the no-win scenario without cheating, because as we know, somebody else cheated to do that.
Really, who?
Next, we find out that she is supposed to be going off on her first training mission as she's in training to be an officer. She's scheduled to go on the Galaxy class ship, the Magellan, but she's transferred suddenly to the Enterprise at the request of Captain Kirk. And we find out that the reason she's transferred is because this ship, the Star Empire, which was a secret project to create this, just a weapon in space, if you will, has been stolen. And the people who stole it sent a coded message. And the only way to decode the message is with Piper's DNA. And so the question, of course, is why would the terrorists have her DNA? What's the connection here? And we find out that the connection is that her roommate back at Starfleet Academy is on the Star Empire. So the terrorists that stole the ship, she knows one of them. So in addition to the fact that it seems suspicious that they have to use her DNA to decode this thing, suddenly now she knows someone on board that ship and she's thrown into the brig and she figures a way out of the brig. What she does is she disconnects the wiring that sets off the audible alarm. And then she's not in the brig. She's in her quarters. I should say she's in her quarters. And it's just being guarded by the fact that the doors are sealed. There's no guard outside. So she rips up stuff. She disables the wiring and then uses her hair dryer, although it's not called a hair dryer, but she uses her hair dryer to.
She's allowed to have one in the brig.
Well, that's the thing. It's actually her quarters that she's in.
Oh,
It's,
okay.
so she uses the hair dryer to heat up the wiring, and the door opens because although the computer has sensed there's a fire, it can't set off the audible alarm, but it says, well, I can't let somebody die trapped here in the brig. So it opens
Right.
up the doors and she gets out.
Stupid logic.
On the way, and her plan is to go over, take a shuttle, go over to the Star Empire and find out what the heck is going on over there. Oh, I should say that before that happens, the Star Empire has shown up. And when the Enterprise gets there, the Star Empire is being attacked by 3 Klingon ships who have pretty much made mincemeat of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking, well, I thought this was supposed to be a very big ship. How come it was so easily defeated? But the Enterprise goes in and it tries to, basically fend off the attack on the Star Empire. But the Enterprise is then also hit, and one of the nacelles is damaged. So they're now limping along, and it looks like all is lost when a ship comes out from nowhere, seemingly, and it's the actual Star Empire. We find out that the one that was being attacked was essentially a ghost. It was a manipulation of the sensors on the Enterprise and the Klingon ships to make them see what the Star Empire wanted them to see. So it essentially took over their view screens and said, what you see out here is this ship. And if you fire your phasers or photon torpedoes, you won't see them go straight through this thing and off someplace. You'll see them hit and cause damage. And then it comes out and it shoots at the Klingon ships, and some of them get away, but then it disappears again. So Lieutenant Piper wants to go over there and find out what's going on. And someone who's bunking with her on the Enterprise is someone she used to know, a Vulcan, Sarda. Sarda is someone who was disgraced by Piper without her intentionally doing it. Sarda is very good at researching on weapons, and she said, oh, hey, he's great at this. And Starfleet was all over it. A Vulcan who can do weapons, we're all about that. And of course,
we love you.
Yeah, except that's not really so much in the Vulcan way of things to be making weapons.
Yeah, stop touching me. Stop touching me.
He starts researching for ways to make toxic things safe, and instead he finds out he accidentally stumbles upon a way to make it's something in the atmosphere of planets toxic. So the complete opposite of what he wanted. And then the Vulcans wanted nothing to do with this guy. So he is now trying. His goal was he wanted to reach Kolinar, but he basically is having to do all the studying on his own. And he's like, keeps falling behind. And he's like, now, so this Lieutenant Piper has basically forced him to be ostracized. So he has no chance in heck of ever reaching his goal. But they try to go over to the Star Empire in the shuttle that they take from the Enterprise, and they're intercepted by a fleet of starships that has come in to be part of this not a rescue mission, but the mission to stop the Star Destroyer because these terrorists have taken it over. And the lead ship is run by Vice Admiral Rittenhouse. And essentially, Vice Admiral Rittenhouse is a badmiral. His plan is he wants to use the Dreadnought to take over the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Empire. He wants to build a whole fleet of these because he wants everyone to just be part of the Federation, whether or not they want to be part of the Federation.
Just chill out, y'all.
And
it's our way or it's my way or the highway kind of thing.
Exactly. And the terrorists are actually the good guys. They're the people who found out about this plan, and they stole the Star Empire to keep it from Rittenhouse and everyone who wants to be, because Rittenhouse has like peppered the entirety of Starfleet and the Federation with people that are, welcoming to his plan, shall we say?
Not the first time we've heard similar stories about, Starfleet leadership.
Exactly. So, I introduced Bonnet to the term Badmiral when we were talking about this book.
Did bugs crawl out of his throat or into his throat?
No, it might as well have, because
deer.
he even had his own little insignia he had on the ship. It doesn't get described, but it's like, you've never seen vice admirals before? Well, all vice admirals have their own little, oh yeah, sure, exactly.
Uh-huh.
What ends up happening is that Piper gets over to the Star Empire, and she's forced to take control of it, even though she didn't want to, because she had done a bad job of performance, not only the Kobayashi Maru, but while on the Enterprise, when the Enterprise was trying to rescue the Star Empire, she folded. She had to be pushed aside out of her chair, and somebody else had to take her place because she just kind of froze. So she didn't want to take over as captain of the Star Empire, but she was kind of forced into it. And between her and Kirk, they managed to defeat Rittenhouse and the other people who wanted to get the Dreadnought. And she ended up getting a lovely medal for it in the end.
Aww.
So it came out all happy in the end. I was, when I was reading the first couple of pages of this book, I was worried that it was going to be a Mary Sue, but a Mary Sue has very strict guidelines that, it's meant for a certain type of thing. And this really wasn't. I mean, this character of Lieutenant Piper, she had a lot of doubts about what she could do. She couldn't do everything. Things did not come to her easily. She had a lot of trouble reading people. I mean, this Vulcan that Sarda, she knew that she had done something wrong. And he said, stay away from me. And I swear every 3 pages, she was going back and asking him more questions, in which he'd say, please don't talk to me anymore. Just stop. I'm going to go off to meditate. So he's gone off to meditate by himself in the shuttle bay. She finds out that you can make these holograms of different planets. So she goes where he's gone off to be in seclusion and sets one of these things off that's a representation of Vulcan. It's like, what about don't bother me? Don't you understand? And
it's
like
pretty universal, dang it.
Yeah, I think, give the sarcastic Vulcan salute at that point.
Yeah.
So she had issues, and she had real self-doubts about what she couldn't do in this, which I thought was good. But the interesting thing about this is one of the reviews I read that they dinged it because it was her story. It wasn't like Kirk wasn't telling the story. So this is all from Lieutenant Piper's point of view.
Mhm.
And to me, I found that refreshing, that you don't always want it to be, Kirk telling the story, or Spock, or even McCoy, that you want to have something that's out of the mold, something that lets a character reflect back on all of those people. And the crew is represented properly. I mean, they act the way you would expect the crew of the Enterprise to act. So I thought that was good, but I also thought it was good to see it from the outside looking in at the same time. And I don't recall one American Express card being pulled out. I don't remember.
Or a Tellarite getting upset about it.
Any bottled water from, Poland Springs or something,
Starbucks coffee?
Nope, no Starbucks, no Dunkin', no Starbucks, no nothing in
Nike
here.
shoes.
And Nikes.
Nope, just those references to, and that's when I was flipping back to say, when did this thing come out? Because I did the math and I said, I don't even think they had a writer's guide for Next Generation at the point where she's writing Galaxy Class. But
Hmm.
at the same time, it's like
Probably not. Yeah.
you got Constellation classes. I don't think Galaxy Class is a stretch to call a class of ship that. But then also Prodigy showed up and I went, man, it's a Nostradamus book I'm reading here. All right, so I should rate mine so Chuck can get to his. So let's see, what am I going to rate this on? I'm going to rate this on 1 to 5 Kobayashi Marus, I guess. 'Cause
Oh.
everybody's got a Kobayashi Maru, including this book. I'm going to rate it a 3. I think that it was interesting from the character study parts of it. I felt like I knew right away it was a Kobayashi Maru at the beginning.
Right.
And I felt like the way the Vice Admiral shows up at a suspicious point in the action, I'm going, something's not right with this guy. You know, those parts seem to be predictable, but I thought some of the characterizations were good in it. All right, but we're on to our last book now.
Yeah.
And that one, let me get that one up here as well. There we go.
It's called the Idic Epidemic, which stands. It's all about Linux distros, infinite distributions, infinite computers.
Did not know that.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, I thought it was the idiotic epidemic.
No, and Craig, thanks for giving me a book about a disease that keeps mutating after we've been through a disease that keeps mutating.
I know, it's so science sci-fi. I've never seen a thing like
it's
that.
like ripped from today's headlines.
It's another Nostradamus book. I did read it several months ago, so forgive me if I missed some details. But the back, I'll go through the first part. It was first published in February 1988. The cover art is by an unidentified artist. I just like the fact that Spock's mouth is agape. Like, what?
Huh?
I can't believe McCoy said that.
Written by Jean Laura, or maybe it's Jean Laura. I'm not sure which one. Laura has produced several Star Trek novels, frequently with her writing and business partner, Jacqueline Lichtenberg. Her most recent work with Lichtenberg takes place in the Simon universe?
Lichtenbergiverse.
Yeah. Her 7-book fantasy series, The Savage Empire, is mostly a solo work. From the back cover, IDIC, infinite diversity and infinite combination. More than just a simple credo. For those on planet Vulcan, it's the cornerstone of their philosophy. Now, on the Vulcan science colony of Nisus, the credo of tolerance is being put to its sternest test. For here, on a planet where Vulcan, human, Klingon, and countless other races live and work side by side, a deadly plague has sprung up. A plague whose origins are somehow rooted in the concept of Idic itself. A plague that threatens to tear down that centuries-old maxim and replace it with an even older concept, interstellar war.
Ooh, it even comes with its own echo. That's impressive.
Hey, don't blow the budget on that reverb, man.
So it sounds like a bigger version of Paradise City you got going on there.
Yes, right.
I love the fact that when you open it up and inside, that was my first thought, is like, oh boy, here we go. We're digging holes in sand.
Brace yourself, kids. Yes, right.
The inside cover starts out, Kroika!
What?
Kirk shouted. Kirk shouted Kroika.
Kirk shouted it?
Kirk shouted it.
Confused already.
Even to the it grabs you right from the inside cover.
Sounds like something quote from Steve Irwin.
No, that's what T'Pau said.
Yes.
Even to the followers of Tevet, the word used in ceremonies dating back to the Vulcan time of the beginning meant stop. You're not on Vulcan now, Kirk said, striding between the two fighters. They rested their weapons on their weighted ends on the floor. You're on my ship, and here my word is law. There will be no combat with deadly weapons aboard ship. You are welcome to use our facilities for unarmed combat to practice marksmanship in the how dare you profane Vulcan custom, Satat, war chief of those assembled, said. He turned to the two fighters. Continue the combat. The two fighters tested their weapons again and began moving. Kirk stood still, squarely between them in the center of the mat. If he didn't get out of their way, they were going right through him.
Oh, it was on the mat. He should show him how to do a roll, like
That's right.
Kirk does with Charlie.
That's
Oh,
right.
Look for other Star Trek fiction books from Pocket Books. I think
Yeah.
yours are in here.
They
Mine's
probably
number
are.
38, bottom of the list.
Well,
Mine was 28, I think.
let me see. I've got him right here
There's
behind me. Let me just check them.
Yep. Yeah, there. Look behind Clinton there, Chuck.
You'll find it.
on
It's
the-
right in there someplace.
Oh yeah,
Someplace in there.
number 19, The Tears of the Singers. Anyway, on to my storyline. So as they mentioned, on the planet Isis, we've got this science institute. There's people working together. The most surprising one is a Klingon, and I forgot a lot of the details, and I didn't make a whole lot of notes, so this will probably go really quickly. They were surprised that a Klingon scientist, like, what did he flunk some rope climbing test or something? And he's there with his son, and this disease breaks out. Meanwhile, on board the Enterprise, they're like, oh, we've got to help. Apparently, the only ship in the quadrant again.
It goes without saying.
And they get there, and who do we find on the planet?
Worf.
No,
Oh.
Dr. Mbenga.
Say, Dr.
wow.
Mbenga. All right.
Wow.
He's like
Is he just waiting to slap Spock around a little bit or something?
well, he and
Yeah.
McCoy, they go way back. So
Yes, they do.
it's a good time with them. But he's trying to identify what's going on. It turns out that people are getting sick, but they didn't know that when they went down to the planet. So I believe it was Sarek and Amanda who are aboard because they're part of this Vulcan delegation that they're taking around. Some of whom don't get along. Some of whom are following Sarek's footsteps of crossing racial lines with Vulcans and humans, and there's quite a bit of this going on the planet too.
Whoa, wait. What kind of planet is this?
Welcome to Ryza. Yeah.
And as stated, this disease keeps mutating. Like, first we had strain A, and if anybody got strain A, if they didn't die, then they were pretty good against strain B. It was the symptoms were a lot less, but you could still get it. And then it went on to C and D. And as the people came back on board, they realized, we may have brought it back on board. And Amanda falls sick. So
now we're serious.
And they figure out that anybody who has mixed blood, Spock, is a carrier. So it's like, that's where the whole Idic thing comes into, like, we shouldn't be mixing bloodlines. So meanwhile, on the planet, there's this hydrological dam, just up the valley from Central City or whatever they called it on the planet in Isis.
Paradise City, we'll call it.
Paradise City,
Research facility city. Again, light on the notes, and they get a warning that the dam is about to burst, so they have to go up and release the sluice gate or whatever manually because the controls aren't working.
Of course.
But there's a terrible snowstorm, so for some reason, I don't know why, the Klingon and his son go up there. I think he was like one of the former engineers who built the thing or something. And they get caught in a snowstorm. It's not a shuttle. It was more like I envisioned more like a Sea-Doo or something like that. That they're only you don't have to ride them in the water. You can ride them through air and space. They crash. Dad is injured. The son is saying, "I'll save you, Dad." He says, "No, go home. Go get help. The dam is about to burst." Well, the dam does burst, and Paradise City downstream is in a flood alert. And they're like, "Flood? We haven't had rain in months." No, there's a flash flood coming. Flood comes through, so they're trying to solve this disease. Meanwhile, there's flooding going through. They're in a bad way, but I'm not going to ruin the ending in case you want to go back and read it. Do they survive? Does Amanda die? Does Spock save the day? Turns out that the answer to they said, well, if Idic is the problem, they went, no. Idic is the solution to the problem. And those that engineered the virus, in case you or disease, but in case you couldn't have guessed, it was engineered and planted. Uh, they were found out. They said, "Hey, this can only be the work of like so and so." So that's
Endurance, isn't it?
I thought it was a pretty good read. The way that they had to work together. They had been working together, but they really had to work together in a crisis. The threads that were woven about throwing you off of this could be it and that could be it. Meanwhile, the crisis with the dam and the flood and yeah, I thought it was well done. I don't know exactly what scale to rate this on. 1 or 2 petri dishes or so. So 1 to 10 petri dishes. We'll go with that. And I give this a solid 7. I thought there was a decent storyline. Didn't have any ATMs or anything goofy in it, and it kept me reading on a pretty solid pace. So 7 petri dishes for the idiot epidemic.
Okay.
I couldn't help but think of all the crap that Klingon scientists had to deal with in high school.
That was part of it. It's like, yeah, Hermie wants to be a dentist. One of those situations. That's the way you felt about some of these people because they were so stereotyped. It's like all Klingons are not warriors.
Right.
You can't run a society on all warriors.
So I question for you guys. In my book, they actually had a page that had these drawings of the different 1 and 2 man fighters that they had on the. Did you guys have any additional material in your book?
No, I didn't have any artwork.
Not at all. You made me look again, but no, I didn't see anything.
So that was something a bit different in Dreadnought! !
No pictures, all words. Oh.
Stupid books.
Fabulous books that keep every Star Trek movie alive for you. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Wrath of Khan. Let's see, they go up to 4, and then they go to Star Trek: Next Generation, official Star Trek quiz book, the Klingon Dictionary, the Compendium Revised, and Mr. Scott's Guide to Scotch. No, the Enterprise.
Yeah, the Enterprise. Yeah, I was going to say, wait a minute now.
It's green.
Simon and Schuster. I love this. There's like a mail-in coupon thing in the back.
That's all right.
Oh,
hey, I do want to mention everybody. I bought these by going to a local used bookstore. So if you got one near you, go support your local, used bookstore. They always got some good stuff in there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And they're, you want to support them because matter of fact, we have a Barnes and Noble here and it's moving to a smaller location.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's staying in business, but shrinking to about half the size.
I should send you a picture of this bookstore. It's literally a mom and pop bookstore, and every book in there is used. And I even had to break $1 so I could buy I normally don't drink a lot of soft drinks like Coke, but they have one of the old machines with the little door on the side. You open it up and pull the bottle out. I was like, I got to do that, so I had to buy a drink. So it's a cool little store.
Got another one with our little trap.
Yeah.
We'll be millionaires in 5,000 years.
Mine.
Another 6,000 bottles and we're set.
All right. Well, with that said, we're going to come back. I thought this was an interesting experiment. We should do this again. Do some more.
I promise I'll take better notes next time.
Maybe why don't we try to find some Next Generation ones so we can, kind of move through the franchise.
What kind of product placement do they have?
We'll find out. We will find out.
Yeah.
Well, come to Minos, the planet of freedom.
So the only
new weapons.
There are very few brand names that get mentioned in Enterprise, that aren't set in current day. Obviously, you have things like Star Trek 4, but when they pick up that truck on Voyager, they identified it, I think, as a Ford.
I think you're right.
Truck. I think they identified it.
It rings a bell. Yep.
Yeah. So, I was like, it's a 58 Ford something or other. Yep.
So maybe it's a piece of trivia,
How did it end up out here?
That'll end up on the cruise. It's like, what year was the pickup truck?
See, that reminds me of I keep thinking, the one of the Mars rovers is going to see a crushed Coke can sitting on the surface. How'd they get here? I don't know.
That's ridiculous. It'd be a crushed Pepsi can. But anyway,
It'll be Data's head.
Yeah, Data's head sitting in this.
once again, another one of those, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, it's time to come back from our main mission with an appropriate sound effect. And to quickly do our warp speed roundtable. With that effect, which I don't know what that was. So this time around, we're saying,
Thanks, Chuck.
given the news that Nicolas Cage is a Star Trek fan, if you could swap him into any role, what character would you like to see Cage play? So you get to choose. Now, it can be a main character, it can be a guest, doesn't really matter. I will go first for the example. So I am going to say that I would like to see him, and this is no disrespect to the actor who actually played the part, you understand. It's just like, if you got to swap him into something, I'd like to see him as Dr. Phlox.
Interesting.
Because I don't think he'd need the makeup to make that smile. And, he's a very off-center character, and I think that, old Nicky would kind of even take that more off-center.
Yeah.
I was going for an off-center character as well. I was going for Reg Barkley.
Ooh.
Just
good choice as well.
Awkward, but yet he could slip into the calm and suave when he's in the holodeck, but when he's around people, I think Cage could pull that off.
I don't know what I'm doing here on the Enterprise. Yeah.
Oh no. Well, I've got one. Gul Dukat.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Gul Dukat. I wasn't sure.
Ooh.
Or maybe
Or
maybe
Damar.
Garrett.
He'd make a fine Cardassian, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if he'd pull it off as good as Garrett. But yeah, Gul Dukat, I
He
could
would
see.
not make a good Grand Negus.
No.
No. My other thought was Baylock.
Wow.
Now, would he be Baylock to substitute for the puppet or for
Right.
Clint Howard?
Clint Howard.
Okay.
Clint Howard.
Because it would work for either one when you think
It could
about
work
it.
for yeah, it could. Yeah. That's
Well,
right.
let's look at some of the more modern. We've been focusing on TOS or TNG or DS9. What about some of the more modern? Could he fit into any role in Discovery
Saru.
or Picard?
Saru.
Saru.
Yeah, I was thinking about modern era stuff, and I had to kind of discount the animated stuff because I feel like, well, then he's just a voice, and I don't think you're getting enough out of it. So it would have to be Strange
I
New Worlds.
disagree. I disagree.
okay.
I think he could do
All right.
some voicing, and you could totally.
So
I
make
think
him
he'd
make him rock talk. I think that would be a challenge.
Yeah, that would be a challenge.
He could probably pull off Jenkum Pod.
Nicolas Cage as Admiral Jericho.
Yes.
Jellicoe, excuse me.
Jellicoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know, Strange New Worlds.
Maybe.
The Kyle is always the answer to go to around here, but I don't think that's.
He could play Mud. There you go. And the version of Mud with Rainn Wilson. He can replace Rainn Wilson
What about him as Kirk, the alternate universe Kirk? The alternate
with the beard.
the alternate future Kirk that we saw in the last episode of season 1.
Oh.
This is what happens when you don't serve as captain on the Enterprise when you're supposed to. You turn into Nicolas Cage. So you better get him into that chair. I'm just saying.
Let this be a lesson to you kids and your temporal stuff.
Or something from the Abrams verse. Could he fill in one of those roles?
You go.
Well, it would be great to see him.
Listener
as,
Diane says. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What does listener Dan say? Okay.
She says Lurie.
Think of the frustration with Kirk dialed to 11.
I was thinking that he could be he could be a good Nero, because Nero kind of just goes a little off
That might
rocker.
work. That
I
might
like
work.
Eric Bana, but yes, I think Cage would have added something to that character.
Yeah. Oh, this is nothing really. We're just saying take a given character and put him in
Right.
that
How about
place.
Shinzon?
Wait a minute.
I felt like Shinzon would be. It's already a stretch to this person that doesn't look like Picard is supposed to be his clone. The fact that
It was rough in the mines.
the fact that they would act nothing alike, I think, would be a little far. I need to get on board the Enterprise. I need to be able to find the back of the Federation articles.
It's 2023. He could have played Beverly Crusher for all we know.
I was
Wesley.
Another one I was considering. Yeah, no, not Wesley. No,
Wesley, yeah.
no.
Shut up, Wesley.
All right. Oh, my
All right.
goodness.
All
So
right.
if you, dear listener, have any ideas
Better
about,
than ours.
yeah, so take any, it could be a guest star. It doesn't have to be main character. It can be a guest star on any one of the series, apparently even on any of the animated series, and say, I think that Nicolas Cage would be interesting in the part of
Albert Einstein.
okay.
Data.
Galileo. Yes, that would be. He's a genius.
Sir Isaac Newton. He could play all the parts at the poker table.
Yeah.
He's that good. He's
That's
just
how
that
awesome Nicolas Cage is.
That's right. Massive
well,
talent. Massive talent.
On that cagey note, it's time to refill the dilithium chamber and to warp on out of here. You can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4.com. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram and Hive and Post and Mastodon and all over the interwebs. And who speaks for you guys?
That guy over there. Go ahead.
That guy up there.
No, that guy.
All right, just search for Technorama Podcast. You'll find us, whether it's at chuckchat.com or Facebook or wherever. Technorama Podcast is our weekly podcast about tech, science, sci-fi, and a whole bunch of geek stuff. Sometimes you learn something. Sometimes we're just nerding out over a fun, obscure story, well, much like this show.
Or personal stories. We do sometimes.
Yeah, we did a deep dive project last week.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Or stories about Nicolas Cage. Whatever works.
He's not out of the question.
And also, thanks to everybody who was watching live. You can catch us when we do the show live. We try to get that announcement out ahead of time. But usually it's every other Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. And so we'd love to have you in our live audience.
Jump in, join the chat.
All right.
Yeah. Be part of the peanut gallery.
But for right now, time to hit the theme, boys. If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at The Topic is Trek, visit our Facebook page, or visit thetopicistrek.com. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, Nicolas Cage, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't put on the red shirt. Maybe you could play a red shirt. All right. And with that, we are going to end the broadcast. Thank you again for watching live and commenting and saying hi. And we will catch you in 2 weeks with some more.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.